There are over 500,000 kids in foster care across the United States, and making sure they're well taken care of takes a village. I'm Erin Lindstrom, and this is Foster Care Aware, a production brought to you by Tidewater Friends of Foster Care with support from the Barry Robinson Center. If you've had it on your heart to become a foster parent, volunteer, donor, advocate, or just want to learn more, you're in the right place. For more information on how to move forward, head to fostercareaware.org/next steps. And now I'm thrilled to share today's segment with you. Hey, I'm Erin Lindstrom, and I am here with an incredible group of people today. First off, we have Audra Bullock, who is the president and founder of Tidewater Friends of Foster Care. We also have with us LaCora Harris, who is a social worker with the Spotsylvania Department of Social Services. Melvin Roy, who is a former foster youth and the founder of Foster You. Sarah, who is a biological parent whose child was in foster care, and Heather Barrington, who is a foster care alum and who is now a foster parent. Thank you so much, all of you, for being with us today. I'm sure this is going to be an incredible conversation. So to start us off, I would love to hear from everyone just a brief description of your journey with foster care or your involvement with foster care. So to start us off, Melvin, would you like to start this party?
Sure.
Awesome.
So my journey with foster care started when I was 13, and I came in the system when I was in high school. And so I kind of stayed in the system all 4 years of high school. And then when I came to college, well, I'm still technically in the system for the financial support they offer for school, but my involvement went a little bit further when I engaged in an internship with Foster Club and started my own organization on campus called Foster You.
Amazing. LaCora, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here?
I was employed with Norfolk Department of Human Services for a number of years, almost 9 years, as a foster care worker, and moved up to a foster care supervisor. And then I moved back to my hometown area, and I currently work as a foster care supervisor for Spotsylvania County Department of Social Services. So I've done everything from intake to recruitment of foster parents and reunification and adoption. So that's my journey.
Amazing. Thank you for being here. Sarah, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. So January of 2016, my daughter, who was 16 months old at the time, was placed into foster care for allegations of domestic violence and substance abuse. And at that point, I began working my case plan, and 8 months later was reunited with my daughter for custody. And that was 4 years ago, and family is healthy and thriving today.
Amazing. Heather, could you please introduce yourself?
Hold on one second. My name is Heather Barrington, and I was adopted. I was in an orphanage when I was a baby until I was 3. And then I was adopted. And at 13, my adoptive family, my adopted mom was doing pills and drinking. So I ended up having to go to foster homes. My journey now is to be able to show foster kids the better life that I wish that I had when I was young.
That's incredible. Thanks for being here, Heather. And Ms. Audra Bullock, or Dr. Audra Bullock, could you please tell us a little bit about your journey here?
Sure. I don't use the doctor title anymore. That's in engineering, so it doesn't really count. But yeah, so in 2015, my husband and I endeavored into becoming foster parents. We got our first foster care placement, and really that changed my whole life. This little boy coming into our home and realizing that the way that the system is set up to invest in him is just not enough to ensure that he's going to thrive, right? The system relies on volunteer parents coming forward, even though there's a stipend, it's pretty modest, and it is a voluntary role to really love and wrap around these kids. And we felt like, as we've been pretty fortunate in our lives and we could do more. And so that led us to start a nonprofit around these kids to really help more than who we could take into our own home. And that's where we are today.
Thank you. All right, well, let's hop into a little bit more. We have some questions for each of you. So Melvin, you mentioned that you entered care as a teenager. Can you talk to us a little bit about, from your perspective, what was most helpful for you going through the system? And then also, what were some of the biggest challenges?
Based on my experience, one thing that was most helpful for me was the support programs that were offered through like Richmond City DSS and also United Methodist Family Services. Their programs really helped me, I guess, how can I say it, find myself and kind of find my place within the system. As far as something that didn't really work so well for me, I don't have to say it was like I had all the programs and all the supports, but then there was also such a lack of guidance. Like everyone just assumed that I knew how to navigate life just because I was just Melvin, and that just, I don't know, it caused so many issues for me that didn't even surface until like I became a senior and / a freshman in college. So that's my answer.
Yeah, well, you're a high achieving young man, and it sounds like so having a little bit more of that guidance, and I think that kind of speaks to how older kids are still kids and they still need parents, right? No matter like what age, and like that guidance.
Yeah.
Can you, like, if you had magic wand, so to speak, like what would that support kind of look like for you, or what would you want for other kids who are in the system to get that support that you wish you had?
I mean, if I could go back and change my situation, I guess I would just put myself with a family who really was a family. It wasn't like we're a family on paper, or like you see us in a picture and that's our family, but you come in our house and it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Because like I think that was the biggest disconnect for me, was like not having an actual family. And then like I would stay with one family for respite, and I kept asking UMFS, like, can I stay with them? And they would always tell me no. And I never understood why, and I still don't understand why to this day. But it was just like, if I could go back and change anything, I would, stay with that family that I could visually see was a family, and that kind of integrated me into their family, even though I only came there once every 3 months,
Yeah. Is the difference there, the way you just put that is really interesting, and I think helpful for people to think of. Like, we're not looking for families like in a photo where you're just like, oh, we're standing together. It's really more about like having that open-hearted connection with the child and like being there for them. And I imagine it not being perfect so much, but kind of just committed to figuring it out together.
Right.
Amazing. All right. Thank you so much for sharing. Heather, so yes. Thank you for sharing about your experience. So you were adopted and then surrendered into foster care. That takes incredible strength to survive, and then to be in a position now where you're actually helping kids, right, who are going through sort of the same thing. Can you speak a little bit about, and I'm sure it was, a long-term transformation, but how did you like have the strength and resiliency to kind of come through that and turn into a woman who's really opening her heart to make this a better situation for other kids?
Well,
nice, easy question for you, Heather.
Yeah. How I did it was I ended up getting married to a really nice guy that showed me true love. And at first, I'll tell you, I was scared, but, I did it. And he was like, you're not a bad person. And now I've been with him for 30 years, and I opened my eyes, like, I have 4 kids of my own. I have I have custody of, parental rights of my grandchild. And I just want to keep on going, because I think when we were younger, the system, you couldn't even, I run home and I'm back in the foster care system again. So my biggest thing is to bring a child into your home, show them the love, the affection. And I'm also, you know, with the mother of the child we have parental rights over, she comes over and visits her child all the time. I still feel that child needs to be a part of that family.
I love that. And that's a really good point. And I think it's really interesting how you sort of credit your transformation to being loved and experiencing that love. And in your case, like through a marriage. And that's exactly what we're looking for, right? When we're talking about foster parents, is we want people who can heal with that love. And I just think it's beautiful that like that love, you know, maybe hit later in life for you, but that you have that. And I just think it's incredible that now you're sharing that love, because it is sort of like an endless resource once you tap into it.
Yep.
Amazing.
David.
Yeah. Awesome. So Sarah, you have a perspective about foster care that we don't get to hear very often. So again, thank you so much to coming to the table and really sharing with us, because it is so helpful to hear the other perspective as we, you know, work to sort of humanize the whole foster care system. Can you tell us, like, in your opinion, what is the most important thing that a foster parent can do to help in the reunification process, to really build that bridge with the biological parent?
Sure. So, you know, I don't want to sugarcoat anything. I want to be as honest as possible right now. And I want to talk about how it is a hard road to have the foster parent and the biological parent come together. My advice for the foster parent would be to not take anything personally. As a biological parent working a case plan, for the first time in my adult life, I was without my unhealthy coping mechanisms of codependency and heroin. And I was trying to learn how to treat people, how to treat myself. And in that process, it comes out sideways. It comes out sideways everywhere, at work, with the department. So I would just encourage you to realize that wherever you are in the process of starting a relationship with the biological parent, just don't take anything personally, and realize that that person is moving forward and trying to figure out how to best approach the situation.
I love that. And really about like almost the same way we hold space for a child who's going through a transition and maybe acting out and we can't really figure out what's happening there, to remember and hold space for the parent too, who is also a human, who's trying their best. And even though we may not like what their best looks like right now, if they're showing up and trying, to kind of like give them that grace and remember that like we're all trying our best and we're all on the same team when we are focused on the child and them being okay and as happy and thriving as possible. Amazing. Audra, let's chat. So you fostered for over 5 years now, and I know before this you had no previous experience with foster care. So can you tell us about some of the things about foster parenting and really just getting involved in the whole foster care world that were unexpected to you, both rewarding and challenging?
Sure. So yeah, I guess I'll point out that it's unusual that people that don't have any connection to foster care come. We're in the lower 20% of the people that come to the table. Just kind of like go to a seminar, have a billboard, see a billboard and come. It's usually about 80% of the people have to have some kind of intimate knowledge. So we got captivated by, whatever motivated me, and my husband at the time went down there to the seminar. And when we saw the need, married with people like Heather that are coming from the system to pay it forward to other children, that seemed like really important heart work for us. I guess the surprising thing, a couple of them were that, love isn't instant with these children, but it's so important that you're upfront and open to that unconditional love and acceptance. And so navigating that and realizing that it's not like bringing home a baby. They at 3, 4, 5, 10, they have the personality of their own, and you have to kind of figure that out. So that was a little bit surprising. The other thing that was surprising too was that it's so much more than just helping children. It's families helping families. And you get a sense of that, I think, in the Pride curriculum, but not really until you're head deep in it. That really there's people on the other side of the equation that are trying very hard, and that you really need to kind of put your own stuff aside, and all the judgment, just check it at the door and just move forward together. Because if nothing more, humans helping humans, before this child who really is heartbroken to be away from their parent, you've got to put those parents on a pedestal, because they do too, and they find their validation from that being done in their parent, because that's the way they see. So that was at first a little difficult, right? Because I've got some background on what had happened, and I see some signs of some things that are concerning in this child that's in my home. But again, just after a while of navigating the system and getting to know the biological parents and the extended family, it's an incredible thing, right? So we ended up adopting our first placement. His mother tried very hard to get things together. It didn't happen in the time frame that the courts allow, but they still maintain a relationship. My son has a relationship with all of his sisters, and it's like this constellation of people now in our family. And I know that if there's something going on with us, they're calling us to make sure that we're okay, and the same goes. So it's this kind of, it's this interesting, blending of families, and I think it's really beautiful. So that, I think, is the rewarding part. Yeah. The challenging part is letting them go. I mean, that's hard. We've heard it from, a number of different foster parents. Tracy Keller, you're kind of never prepared to not be without them, especially if they're, littler, if you can try and rationalize it like you're going off to college, you're never always with your children, but it's particularly painful when they're young. And I think that the way to survive that is to have your support system, to have your friends, to have your fellow foster parents to be around. Just, there is the potential for heartbreak. But we said it the other day, right, Erin? It was like, you got to approach this like donating a kidney, right? It's going to hurt, but it's really, really going to help that child and their family. So that's why you come forward to do it.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. So it sounds like there's just redefinition of families happening. And I love that, because this is really about humans helping humans. And at the end of the day, like, these children need homes, and regardless of the circumstances that brought them here, there's a bunch of humans trying their best, and we're all kind of in this together as citizens of the world. The other thing that really struck me too is the idea that you're building a relationship. It's not an instant bond necessarily, like some people may believe. They're coming to foster care and they're like, I want to help a child, and I'm going to get this child, and I'm going to immediately love them, and then here we are, and then, you know what I mean? We kind of like romanticize the whole situation. And you make a really beautiful point about that this is relationship building. And so the same way, when you meet someone and you're dating, you have to build a relationship before you really love them. That takes some time, and it takes effort, and takes showing up and being open. And it's the same thing when you have a child coming into your home. Like, this is a process. And I think that's just an important thing to highlight, is so much of this is about the process and not just the destination. LaCora, so you've been a social worker for many, many years, and I love talking to you about foster care because you have such enthusiasm and really brilliance in the subject matter, because you've been, learning and working experientially for so long. And so I'm wondering, if you can share with us a little bit, like, what have you learned? What are your big lessons about children and families that, as a public, kind of, that knowing this would help serving children in the foster care system?
I think that I treat children in foster care, families connected to foster care, and foster parents all the same. We're all human. We all want validation. We all want to feel good about the decisions we're making. We want a safe place to land when we don't make good decisions, or our choices don't turn out so great. We want somebody to have our back, and we want somebody to hear us. So I approach everybody the same. I don't think I'd necessarily give one or the other more credit at that, because, again, being humans, I mean, we're all subject to error. So those are my big lessons. I think that when you strip away the titles of the biological parent who's seen as the quote unquote monster, like I'm looking at Sarah and she's beautiful and she's, she's well put together. And that's who I would have seen her as while I was working with her as a biological parent trying to get her kid back. Like I would have seen her, baby, you can get to that place. You can get to where I would have coached her into that place. I would have saw that before she could. With foster parents, when they're having those rough days, once they feel comfortable enough to have that conversation with me, my coaching really comes from a place of seeing you past that rough moment. So it's rough today, and that's okay, and that doesn't make you a failure, doesn't make this child a failure, doesn't make the situation a failure, whether the child stays in your home or not. It's really just about having that support, that safe place to land. So I think that's, sometimes you wear many hats as a worker. You're not just a family services worker. People can get stuck on the titles. Oh, I went to school for this. This is my degree. Or no, I did this. All those things are great. But at the end of the day, people need to just show up and be human and see that they're human. Let them know that they're okay. Their decisions may not be, but they can be better. You've got their back. You care about them. That's what we are all looking for. So
yes.
Like I've taken from it.
I love that. That is so true and so important, that it's really that same, everyone wants that unconditional love that the child is looking for. And we're all humans and we all have that heart, and we're all looking for that validation
Yes.
and support. So the more and more we can kind of extend that to people, the better off everyone is going to be. And sometimes
Absolutely.
It's hard. And like
Absolutely.
and I think that's a really important point too, is that like it's hard to do that sometimes. It's not going to be the most natural thing.
Yep.
And again, just going back to that process. So thank you all so much for kind of sharing your unique perspectives. To wrap us up, I would love to hear, and we'll go around, for people who are watching this and leaning in, and they are open-hearted people who are, I want to do this and I'm scared, right? And it's a scary thing because I think everyone thinks they need to be perfect and know how it's going to happen. And we want all the answers before we start the journey. I would love to know, what are your words of encouragement for these people? So LaCora, would you mind starting us off?
Sure. If you're scared, if you're worried about what the decision you make or how it's going to look, then you are absolutely on the right track. If you are a person who doesn't think anything and you're like, I'm just going to do it, everything's going to be great, you're the one I'm concerned about. So I need those people who are truly worried, because that shows me, and that should show you that you are doing this. You're coming from a place of caution and you want to do the best. And again, go for it and build your support team. And we're excited to have you. Know you're going to make mistakes. It's like anything else in the world. You're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. That's a part of the growing process. Be okay to be a human, so that you can allow these kids to be human and these bio parents and families to be human too.
Love it. Thanks, LaCora. Sarah, would you mind sharing some words with us?
Absolutely. If you are watching this and you're considering becoming a foster parent, I would just like to encourage you to go ahead and do your research, and definitely reach out to your support group and your community, get some feedback there, and realize that there's a lot of people who want to support you. And the system is set up to support the child, support the foster care family, and especially support the biological parents. I spend a great deal of time working with recovering addicts who have children in the foster care system right now. And I'll tell you, the children are there and they need you now.
Thank you, Sarah. Melvin, what's on your heart?
My advice is that, like, if you're nervous about becoming a foster parent, think to yourself, like, think about where your heart is. Like, if you feel like that your heart is 100% committed to becoming a foster parent and you're nervous, that's fine. But if your heart's not 100% there and you're nervous, you should really be looking at something else.
I love that. Really, like, discerning and making sure that you're committed to give your heart to a child, because otherwise we don't want to cause more damage. We want open-hearted people to actually come to the table. Heather, can you please tell us What words do you have for people who are considering fostering?
I consider keep your heart open. Let that child be a part of the other family, biological family. The foster parent thing I'm going to be doing, and you have to do your training. That's very important. I'm training with BB right now, me and my husband, for a refuge child, and we're almost done. So we're really excited about that, and we're excited about opening our heart and taking that child in and giving the child you love. You have to show that you want to be a part of it. If you're not, don't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Whole imperfect hearts, please apply.
Yes.
Audra, what do you have to say to people who are on the fence?
So I would say it's the most amazing thing that my husband and I have ever done. It's, more than anything in our life, it has been challenging, but it has grown us in ways that really can't describe. We're better partners with each other. We're better parents to our children. We're better people, I think, in the community because of these kids. And if that's not reward enough, and it's scary at times, and it should be, and you don't have to have all the answers, but you do have to be committed, and you do have to learn how to care for these children, because if you're not coming from an environment that you might have struggled and that you would understand the struggle that they've been through, then you got a lot to learn, because the surface is not necessarily what it appears to be, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. There's depth there to what they're going through, and the behaviors aren't just the tantrum, it is a message. And learning that can be particularly challenging, I think, for people that haven't gone through a struggle that can relate to that, if that makes sense. But it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And to be able to see and know that these children and their families are better off for what you've done is I don't know another word.
Yeah,
amazing,
incredible,
miraculous.
Amazing. If you are watching this and you are on the edge, teetering back and forth, like at the edge of the diving board, deciding whether or not you want to jump into the pool, we're here to support you in making that decision. So the Prospective Parents Program is a new initiative by Tidewater Friends of Foster Care. If you are finding yourself in that spot and need to have a conversation and get your answers, or your questions answered rather, and want to be in a community of people who are doing the same thing, you want to learn more and make a decision that feels right to you, come join us. You can go to tidewaterffc.org/PPP for more information, or send a Facebook message, and we are here to chat through it and help you figure it out, and make sure that you have the emotional and mental capacity and support to navigate this journey without knowing all of the answers at the beginning. But we're here, we've got your back the same way you want to have these kids back. So thank you so much, LaCora, Melvin, Heather, Sarah, Audra. We super appreciate your perspective and sharing with us. And thank you so much. And a big thank you for listening. Foster Care Aware is all about spreading the word about how we can help the kids who are in care in whatever capacity works for you. Tidewater Friends of Foster Care is here to help support you through the journey. Whether you want to be a foster parent, volunteer, donor, or advocate, head on over to fostercareaware.org/nextsteps to learn more.